Welcome back everybody to my third video about living here at Alders Magnolia. And this video, some of y'all may find a little bit controversial. I apologize for that. I'm going to try to be as delicate as I can about those of us who have pets. And as we also have to be respectful of those people living here who don't have pets and have their objections to it. I personally could not have moved here if I couldn't have brought my pets with me, because they're part of my family and that's just the way it is. And then there's people who don't like living around pets, and that's just the way that is. And so what we all have to try to do is get along together.
What we've got here is failure to communicate. Some men you just can't reach. So you get what we had here last week, which is the way he wants it. Well, he gets it. And I don't like it any more than you may.
It's not always easy. I'm going to say some of my friends that I talk to here that don't have pets are sort of sensitive to different things about them. They're sensitive to the way they smell. If you don't live with a pet and somebody walks by you and they have a pet, oftentimes you can smell that animal. See, to me, I'm used to living with a pet, and we try to keep our pet clean, and I don't think she smells bad, but some people living here might think she does. And so we don't bring... I'm going to talk about what we don't do with our pet rather than talking about what other people do with their pets. One of the things we don't do, except maybe early in the morning when we're getting some coffee after walking Reagan, we may go into the grand hall to get a cup of coffee, but other times and usually it's early in the morning, so no one's there and it doesn't bother anyone, but at different times of the day when people are using the grand hall, we don't bring our pet there, because I can tell you by sitting there with some of my friends when pets come through, some of the comments and opinions about doing that are not pleasant. They just don't think pets belong in the grand hall, especially and always when any kind of food is being served. We don't bring Reagan down to the grand hall other than maybe that one time in the morning when we get our coffee. The rest of the day, for our dog, she doesn't go there. If we take her outside, we don't walk through there with her. We take her through one of the many exits, and as you can see right now, we're walking her around the retention pond on the concrete, and she likes that. That gives her the exercise and the stimulation she needs. She meets other people and other dogs, and for the most part she gets along with the other dogs and they get along with her. But there are, for some reason, certain pets who don't get along with each other, and I would encourage anyone who takes their pet out and about, if you know that your pet doesn't get along with another pet for any reason, you should try to avoid bringing those two animals close together, because problems can happen. Now, in this case, those areas fenced off to the right, those are like the public restrooms for dogs, and they're also a place where you can let your dog off leash, and your dog can run around and have a good time and get a little free time to themselves. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video. Right now we're walking around the retention pond, and that gives Reagan, I'm going to estimate a third of a mile to a half a mile walk. It's good exercise. And oh, by the way, right there is Hebrew's Coffee Shop, and it's a wonderful place with wonderful people. it's an amenity in my opinion that I didn't get to mention in my previous video, which is going to be linked in my playlist at the end of this video. But I'll see. Now Reagan, she's no dummy. She's doing her business in the shade. So by the way, they provide doggy bags for us. All we have to do is pick up the present from our animals, and then here's these green boxes where you can get the bags. They provide the bags for us, and then we can dispose of the bag in the box. And again, I'm going to have to say it, and you know, for the most part, everyone living here is doing this, and everybody who has an animal appreciates that. But there's also people who aren't doing it. And you know, one of the problems with that is, yeah, they mow the lawn and it gets cut up, and some people see it as fertilizer, but that's one of the ways that animals spread diseases. We've always taken Reagan in every 6 months. She's 8 years old, and the last time we brought Reagan to the vet, lo and behold, she had hookworms, which she's never had. And we've always have her on heart guard and worm medicine. But you know, we asked the vet, how does this happen? And the vet told us that, you know, when other animals are out there and doing their business and it's not being picked up, and then animals come and sniff that, well, they can contract the parasite very easily, and that's what happened to Reagan. So we treated her at that vet visit. We've had her back to the vet, and she's again free of any kind of hookworms. But folks, you know, don't be leaving your dog's business around the property. Alders Magnolia has gone to great lengths to make it easy for us to pick this stuff up and dispose of it properly. And if you're not doing that, maybe you need to be hiring someone to walk your dog who will do it and can do it. I know there's people here that may have a hard time bending over and picking this stuff up, but it's something that we all have to do. And I can tell you another thing that I talked to some people that live here who can be real unhappy about it, is if they find a little present outside their door or in the elevator, and it just kind of sitting there. Now, Alders, anybody who's watching this video, I want to stress to you that, to my knowledge, when Alders sees this and hears about it, the management staff, they get right on it, and they you know, it gets cleaned up. But it's not their job to do that. That's your job if that's your pet. And if you know that your pet is having a problem holding in their business on the way outside, you should probably be carrying some paper towels and some disinfectant spray and whatever it is you're going to need to clean that up. Don't just walk away from it and pretend it didn't happen, because that's not fair to anybody who's living here. And it's also going to create animosity between those of us who have pets and those of us who don't. So I'm just going to ask, please, if you see your pet has a problem, and hey, they get old and they're like family, and you know, it's just like any other elderly person that might have a problem. We've got to learn to have ways to deal with that and clean it up so it doesn't offend anybody else that lives here. So I'll leave that alone, and I'll move on to my next subject. My dog Reagan, she's learned to walk on a leash. Like I said, when we came here, she didn't know how to walk on a leash, and right now she's leading my GoGo scooter. And so animals will learn new things if you just take the time to teach them. And boy, Reagan could have been a sled dog. She's got a lot of strength in those little legs, and she kind of watches out for me, and we can seem to move around the building and with her on a leash. Again, the second thing is, please, unless you're in those fenced-in areas that are in the dog park there, please do not let your dogs roam without being on leash, because that's when more problems happen, and you just never know. Animals are unpredictable, and one of the things I've learned is after I push the button on the elevator, I try to stand back away from it, so if the door opens and somebody's coming out or trying to get in, my dog's just not right up there on them, and that seems to be a good practice for me, and that's what we try to do. So now I'm heading back home here, and again, Reagan seems to know where she lives, so this part of our daily walk is really not a problem, and it's comfortable for both of us. And oh, now pretty soon here we're going to go back to the dog runs, I guess is what they are. And one of the other things that we've learned is these fenced-in areas are really good for the pets, but there's a lot of us living here who have pets, and so I would encourage what we don't do when we leave Reagan in here to give her free time off leashes. We don't have lengthy cell phone conversations. We try to pace ourselves to maybe giving the animal 5 or 10 minutes off leash, and then we try to clear the space for somebody else's dog, because it's really hot out here, and it's not, it's often these animals don't get along together, so it's usually one at a time in here behind these fences off leash. And be fair with your neighbors and try to give them their time with their animal, so they can have a little free time off leash, because they need. One of the great things about this dog run here is off to the right, and it's hard to see, but there's a really nice lake in there, privately owned lake, and it produces all kinds of wildlife, birds, turtles, frogs, squirrels, you name it. And these types of animals give other dogs stimulation. It kind of a lot of these animals my dog had never seen living in my backyard at my house, so it's been good for her, and it's helped her acclimate herself to living here at Alders Magnolia. And so that's about all I have to say about that. Again, many of you folks had some really nice things to say about my previous 2 videos, and I don't want to be the preacher here at Alders Magnolia. They have rules. Most of the things that I've talked about are defined in our leases, and I know it can be difficult to obey the rules, and everybody has their own reasons for obeying the rules and reasons why it's difficult for them to obey the rules. But what I myself personally, what I don't want to see happen here is a situation where Alders Magnolia just throws their hands up and say, okay, no more pets, because I love it here, my pets love it here, and I wouldn't be able to live here without my animals. They're family, and if they go, I go. So I try really hard to, the things I talk about in this video, I try very hard to go by those same standards with my pet. And so I try to not offend my neighbors' sensibilities, and hopefully we can all live in peace, and that would be my ultimate goal. I hope I've said some things here that some of you guys can appreciate. I know I've probably said some things that some of y'all don't appreciate, but there's a lot of things that go unsaid because people just don't know how to talk to each other about these sort of problems and difficulties. So I guess I'm going to have to be either the good guy or the bad guy and talk about some of these things. People love their animals, folks. I mean, be patient with them, let them learn. It took us a little while to learn a good way of doing things when we moved here, and when new people move here, they'll learn. And things will get better. Oh, have I mentioned? We also have another family member. His name is Rex. And just like we have to learn how to get along with our neighbors and neighbors' pets here, Rex and Reagan have to live in the same space and get along with each other. One of the really cool things about Alders Magnolia, I know there's a nice lady here that will take care of your cat if you're away. And right now my wife is taking care of making sure that one of her friends' cats get fed while she's on a trip. So yeah, it's pet friendly here. We do pay pet rent, and we think it's worth it to have our pets here. And I think it's in my opinion, it's also they've earned their space here. They're entitled to be living here just like we are because we pay for them. And I'm sure Alders uses some of that money to maintain those pet stations that are out in the walk areas, and the plastic bags are provided for us, and that's not free. And they also go out there and empty those trash cans, and that's not free. So you know, in many ways the management here is doing their part. They can't be in the hallways or the yard to pick up after people's animals. That's something that they have to that we have to do for ourselves. So anyway, I'm going to close this video and just say thanks, and there's a playlist linked right here at the end that will show you the other videos I've made.